Okay? You still have to say that. Even if you allowed them to give the equivalent to the 6 pounds of rice money, even if you allowed that, you still just not just say the money. Can anybody knows why? Because if we do that, we change the deen of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Nabi sallallahu never said $10. $10 is my estimate. But what if the 6 pounds of rice became at one point in history $3? What if it is $25? What if there is basically the rice or the grain became $50? So generation, if the person started $10, that we've been doing this for years, their kids, their children will grow up $10. Down on the road, 50 years down on the road, it will be in their mind, it's $10. You see, so that you change what is the Sharia came with. The Sharia came with something that fits everywhere, every time. So when you refer to the amount of the grain or the amount of the staple food, the sa', every time and everywhere, they will try to make the conversion. They convert it to dollars, to pounds, to yen, whatever, the currency is. So that's why it is important for the student of knowledge is to watch how they, and don't underestimate this, down on the road can things change. And because of this way of thinking, Sharia al-Islamiyya was saved through history. And the deen of Allah never was lost. Look at other religions and you study it. That's one of the reasons that some of these religions lost part of the religion, because they stuck with what? The interpretation of individuals, and they made it as if it is the deen. So down on the road, their interpretation became the religion, which is not, it's just an interpretation. Yes, today we have Hadith Jubair ibn Mut'im, so you can read. Today we're going to read all these ahadith together, because inshallah, hopefully we'll finish the whole chapter of the salah timing before Ramadan end.
قال المؤلف رحمه الله تعالى: وعن جبير بن مطعم رضي الله تعالى عنه قال: قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: يا بني عبد مناف لا تمنعوا أحدا طاف بهذا البيت وصلى أية ساعة شاء من ليل أو نهار. رواه الخمسة وصححه الترمذي وابن حبان.
أحسنت.
Narrated Jabir ibn Mut'im radiallahu anhu, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said: O descendants of Abdul Manaf, you must not prevent anyone who goes around this house Kaaba and prays here at any hour of the night or day that he wishes. Reported by Al-Khamsa, Al-Tirmidhi, and Ibn Hibban, graded Sahih, authentic.
This hadith, Jubair ibn Mut'im radiyallahu anhu, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said it at Fath Makkah. Okay? So Jubair ibn Mut'im is a companion who entered Islam. It was said at Hudaybiyah time, and some said he became Muslim at the conquered of Mecca, or opening Mecca. But definitely Jubair ibn Mut'im, al-Islam entered his heart way before that. At Ghazwat Badr, there were a lot of the people of Quraysh taken as what? Prisoner of war. So the people of Quraysh want to free them. So they send Jubair to negotiate with the Prophet ﷺ their release. Okay? Anybody can tell me why did they send Jubair ibn Mut'im? Why do you think they chose Jubair ibn Mut'im? Anybody know? Yes?
His father gave rest the word.
Very good. His father have done so much favor to the Prophet ﷺ. Jubair ibn Mut'im ibn Adi, it's his father. He is the one who basically, when the Prophet ﷺ came from Ta'if after he was rejected and treated so badly in Ta'if, and came, the people of Mecca don't want to allow him to come back. So Jubayr ibn Mut'im's father, which is Mut'im ibn Adi, came out and he said, Muhammad will enter Mecca under my protection. And nobody can touch him. Also, another incident, when the people of Quraysh decided to put a siege on the Muslims and Bani Hashim, and they put the Prophet ﷺ and his companion in a valley called Shayb ibn Abi Amr, and they blocked them completely from the rest of the society, not allowed to marry from them, not allowed to do business, trade with them, not allowed to provide them even water. They put them under siege, and it was very bad situation. Among the people who come together to cancel this unfair treatment was Jubayr's father, Mut'im ibn Adi. That's why when he came and he talked to him, he said, if your father was alive and asked me today to let these guys to go, I will just give them even for nothing in return. I'll let them go for him. But before he met the Prophet ﷺ, listen to what Jubayr ibn Mut'im said. Also, there's another reason why he did choose Jubayr. Jubayr ibn Mut'im ibn Adi, he is ibn Nawfal, he is basically from the Ibn Abd Manaf, so he is from the top leaders in Quraysh. His tribe considered the most important tribe in Arabia, and in Mecca in particular. So he is very well respected because he descended from a very well respected family. And no doubt this is a society where tribe means a lot to people. And in Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when you see عظيم قوم عظمه, when you see someone comes from an honorable family, he honor him as well. So that's one of the reasons they send him, because someone like this will not be said to no to him. Okay? So here he came, he said, I arrived, this is after Badr. His father, by the way, died before Badr, before the battle of Badr. I don't remember now, but maybe like 6, 7, 8 months, something like that, before the battle of Badr and after Hijrah. Anyway, so when Jubayr ibn Mut'im came, he said, I came while the Prophet leading Maghrib prayer. And I heard the Prophet ﷺ reciting Surah Al-Tur. Listen to what he said. He said, فَلَمَّا سَمِعْتُ يَقْرَأُهَا كَادَ قَلْبِي أَنْ يَطِيرُ. When I was listening to him reciting it, my heart almost departed from my body, left my body. From the verses really moved my heart, shook my heart. When they hear about the Prophet ﷺ, they said, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what he could be? A poet? Someone who very good in poetry? Then he was talking to himself. What this? He liked the Quran. Then he's thinking, does that sound like a beautiful poetry? Then all of a sudden the Prophet reciting, أَمْ يَقُولُونَ شَاعِرٌ نَتَرَبَّصُ بِهِ رَيْبَ الْمَنُونَ قل إني قل تربصوا فإني معكم من المتربصين. Allah saying in the verses, they claim that you are a poet. Tell them, Ya Muhammad, wait, let's see. Because poetry, the impact of it don't last. Tell me what's Abu Nawas contributed to the civilization of Muslim today. Tell me what Antara did, the most beautiful. Al-A'sha, Ibn Qayyim, all these poets that the Jahiliyyah knows, and the people of Arabia know, who died long time ago, their impact is very limited. So Allah is saying, Tarabbas, wait, I'm waiting with you. So you will know the impact of the Quran. Then he said, is that a poetry? While he's thinking, أم تأمرهم أحلامهم بهذا أم هم قوم طاغون. Is their ahlam, their aql, their intellect lead them to this? Any person in Arabia can easily distinguish the difference between Quran and poetry. Poetry has a certain way to format. Al-Quran is not in the poetry format. So how can you say it's poetry? If you just think about it a little bit, you have to be really, really forcing yourself to be dumb to say it's poetry. It's very clear, unjust way of thinking. أم يقولون تقوله بل لا يؤمنون. Maybe that's the other thing in Jubair Mut'im. He said, you know what? Muhammad is a very smart, very eloquent, he's a very good person. He comes from a very poetic environment, and their command over the Arabic language is so strong. Maybe he made this up with the intellect, with his pure soul. Maybe he made this. And Allah said, فَلْيَأْتُوا بِحَدِيثٍ مِثْلِهِ إِن كَانُوا صَادِقِينَ. Okay, if this is the case, why his cousin couldn't come up with one? If it's about the society and the pure society he lived, the command of the Arabic language, how good he is in the literature, there are so many people like him. So why no one else came with something like that? Jubair listening to this and all this going in his head, like thinking, أَمْ خُلِقُوا مِنْ غَيْرِ شَيْءٍ أَمْ هُمُ الْخَالِقُونَ. Are they the one who created themselves, or someone else created them? طيب, the Arab used to say to themselves, and even some people today might think the same way. He said, no, I was created by my mother, my father. And my mother and my father from another mother and father, and another mother and father. So that's how we came. It's a fallacy argument, but listen to what the Quran said. أَمْ خَلَقُوا السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ بَلْ لَا يُوقِنُونَ. Okay, you have father and mother. So what about the earth? What about the heavens? So that means there is a creator for the world. Then the next question comes to the mind. Okay, there is a creator for the world, and these are the words of this creator. Why Muhammad? Why him? Okay, I give up. There is a creator. That's the words of Allah. It's not word of any human being. But why him? Why this orphan boy? The Quran answer in the same verse in Tur. أَمْ عِنْدَهُمْ خَزَائِنُ رَحْمَةِ أَمْ عِنْدَهُمْ خَزَائِنُ رَبِّكَ أَمْ هُمُ الْمُصَيْطِرُونَ. Are you going to control what Allah has and possess in His hand? Allah subhanahu, this is His world. This is His creation. This is His fadl. This is His favor. He give it to whomever He wants. You don't have the right to say, why this, why not this? It's His world. I give whatever I want. If somebody tell me, Sheikh Walid, haram what you doing at the main center. Why? Why you teach Bulugh al-Maram main center? Why don't you teach Bulugh al-Maram in Maryam Masjid? I think you are wrong. Can anybody tell me that? No. I choose whatever masjid I want to go to. It's my ilm, it's my time, it's my effort. I choose whomever you want. Why in the world Arsalan is the only one can convince you to come to teach here? It's my friends, I choose whomever I want. You see? So you can't do that. It's logically understand. So Allah SWT choose Muhammad. End the story. It was so powerful that when I was listening to it until the Prophet finished it, it shook my heart. Then listen to what Jubair ibn Mut'im said. قال وكان هذا أول ما وقع الإسلام في قلبي. And that's how Islam started. But listen, he did not become Muslim until what? Fath Makkah, 9 years. Or 8 years or 7 years later. 7 Hijri. That means what? 5 years. So it took time until he was guided to Islam. So he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, O Bani Abdi Manaf. Why did he address Bani Abdi Manaf? Bani Abdi Manaf, why did he address? These are all people of Mecca, for example. Bani Abdi Manaf, they were the one who in charge of Mecca. And then Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he entered Mecca, he gave the keys of the Kaaba to I think Uthman ibn Hanif, and they were in charge of Al-Hajj, Al-Umrah, saving the Mecca, the Haram, basically taking care of the people. They are in charge of that. So they are the one who in charge of Al-Kaaba, and they are the leader of Quraysh. So if he told that to Bani Abd Manaf, everybody should listen as well. You talk to the king, that means everybody underneath him goes as to follow. They are the leader. He said, Ya Bani Abd Manaf, لا تمنعوا أحدا لا تمنعوا أحدا. Do not prevent anyone. لا تمنعوا أحدا. أحدا here, it is a nakira في سياق النهي تعني العموم. It's an indefinite word, which it means a very general term. No one ever come to this house to circulate around, which is make tawaf, or to pray. I have a question for you. Is that indefinite, that generality, should be kept on its appearance like absolutely no one? Give me an example. He said, I don't think so. Good.
Okay. Because maybe he was referring to that time specifically, to the people who used to be there worshiping other gods.
Okay. So, he said, I think what he's trying to say, what if someone want to go make tawaf and to pray to the idols? Should they prevent them or not? Should stop. If somebody gonna go make tawaf like the old days, naked, like in the old days, naked, should be stopped or not? Stop. Somebody was sending me recently a video of a woman wearing ihram. Ignorant. Ihram, you know the ihram, like underneath like this, like just regular, like a man's ihram. I want to go make tawaf. She doesn't know. It looks very, I don't know about the authenticity of the video, but I have my own interpretation for it. But people like, what? Like, let's assume that this is true. Should be stopped or not? Stop. طيب. Is this only to Bani Abd Manaf or anyone in charge of Mecca? Anyone in charge of Mecca. So if Bani Abd Manaf not in charge anymore, anyone else who in charge of Mecca, not allowed to stop people from going to the tawaf or to the salah. Is not allowed to go to tawaf or to salah. One of the things that I give it a due credit to the Saudi government, that unless the person is considered a threat to people, if he's a threat to people, will not let him in. But if somebody, let's say in the blacklist, not allowed to enter the country, in the blacklist, not allowed to enter the country, and abandoned from entering Saudi Arabia, if he comes in ihram to the airport, they actually cannot stop him. The law made them send an officer with him. He goes, make the tawaf into Umrah, and to get him back and to leave the country. And actually I know a couple of people happened to them. They were on the blacklist from not entering. And he said that's basically what happened. Allah, and if this is what it is, I appreciate it. And they said it is because of that hadith. Because they're not even, it's your country, but Mecca is not yours. This is for the whole Muslim world. Anyway, question. So this generality is not should be taken as general. So there is cases where we can stop people from making. طيب. هل المنع, you prevent them? For when the Prophet said, do not prevent them. According to their standard or their wish or their desire, or he was talking about from a religious respect, do not stop them religiously. When he entered Mecca and he told those people, do not stop people from coming to Mecca. Do not stop people from, making tawaf and making salah. What he's referring, do not, don't have your desire to control who's in and who's out. You see what I'm saying? That's what this hadith means. He was telling the Bani, it's not up to you. Wallahi, I like this tribe, I let them in. I don't like this tribe, I'm not going to let them in. You know, I like how this guy look, and he pay money, he makes money, he's poor. It doesn't work this way. Anyone can come. You know what? I have no time now to go to Mecca, so I'm going to close it down. Or to Haram. It's not up to you. You have to keep this place open for everybody, any time in the day, any time in the night. But this hadith doesn't mean you're not allowed to prevent someone for religious reasons. So if there is a religious reason to stop them, you stop them. For example, if you are in Mecca and the salah was called, Allahu Akbar, Ashhadu an la, and the prayer Asr. Then you see someone, okay, leave the jama'ah and start his own salah. I said, you know what, we're going to pray Asr by ourselves, we're not going to pray with him. Can Bani Abdi Manaf, or who represented them, say, yeah, not allowed to pray here? Can we do that? Yes, because this salah is haram, it's not allowed. You should join the jama'ah. You don't break the jama'ah. So here with the don't prevent, he means, he said this when he entered Mecca. Yani, I'm still giving you the power, but don't abuse your power. This power is meant for you to serve people, not to abuse people, not to control people. So it has to do with don't prevent anyone for political reasons, for whatever reason he desires. No, what the hadith do not talk about, you're allowed to prevent someone from tawaf. For example, if it's completely full, like now you go to Mecca, sometimes the doors, they have a green light. I don't know if you've been there recently. And the gate, there's a green light. And sometimes turn red. The red, you cannot enter. Because you cannot enter to the tawaf. Or around the Kaaba. Because it's completely full. Upstairs, downstairs, everywhere. Or for example, downstairs. So they're preventing people from tawaf. But for a valid reason, yes, it is a valid reason. It's not safe to go in. So wait until they finish. Then you can come in again. So when this hadith doesn't mean that absolutely not allowed. No, you're allowed to prevent someone from praying when there is a valid reason for it. Tayyib. He said, came to make tawaf or to pray any time in the day or the night. Why you think this hadith is mentioned here? Last week we talked about times we're not allowed to pray. After Asr, after Fajr, at right before Dhuhr time. Okay? And this Zawal. So this hadith said any time in daytime or any time in the night. Is that include after Asr and after Fajr or not? Sunrise and sun, yeah, anytime. The hadith is very general. Anytime. So even if someone come to pray, want to pray or want to make tawaf, okay? 5 minutes before Maghrib, this hadith included. 5 minutes before sunrise, sun goes down, the hadith included. Before Dhuhr, so hadith is general. So that's why the Mu'allif rahimahullah, the author brought this hadith to tell you that this is one of the scenarios of what we talked about last week called what? As-salawat datul asbab. That you pray a volunteer prayer for a reason. Which is the reason here is what? At-tawaf. You make tawaf, and after you finish tawaf, you pray 2 rak'ah. Okay? So here with the Prophet said, وَصَلَّى طَافَ بِالْبَيْتِ وَصَلَّى. He made tawaf and made salah, because they are connected together. The salah here referring to the salah that takes place right after the tawaf. You pray 2 rak'ah behind Maqam Ibrahim. So let's say I finish my tawaf 10 minutes before Maghrib. And now I need to pray the 2 rak'ah after tawaf. If somebody tells you, not allowed, because the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, do not pray when the sun goes down. Then somebody tells you, no, you can pray because the Prophet ﷺ said, you can pray anytime. Okay? How you understand this? Al-ulama rahimahumullah, some of the ulama said, the ruling of Salat al-Karaha wa Nahi, the hadith that speak about, you're not allowed to pray at a certain time, do not apply to the status of Mecca. Kida, as general as this. They said any Mecca is excluded from this ruling because of this hadith. So in Mecca there is no such thing called dislike time to pray. Because of the honor of Mecca, and because the amount of reward that you get, and because people in and out, they cannot control their timing. Okay, so he said there is no, you can pray, you can make any nafil, even any volunteer prayer. After Asr, you can pray, after Maghrib, before Dhuhr. They said that rule does not apply to Mecca. And this, some of the Shafi'iyya said that. The Hanabila said, no. The only exception is the 2 rak'ah after tawaf. And some of the Shafi'iyya as well. This is the only exception is what? The 2 rak'ah after tawaf. But volunteer nafil, Mecca like any other place. So they said the 2 rak'ah after tawaf, it's like Tahiyat al-Masjid. You enter the masjid, you pray 2 rak'ah. It's allowed because there is a reason for it. You following? Al-Ahnaf said, yes. No, bas Mecca, only Mecca, not Medina. Al-Ahnaf is still, for them, not allowed to pray. If it is a time or forbidden salah, it is forbidden. Mecca, Medina, no exception. So they have standard here that you're not allowed to pray, especially when the sun goes down or the sun coming up. So here we say, what it seems to me, wallahu a'lam, that this is the Hanabila's position, and some of the Shafi'iyya, and some of the Malikis as well, that it is for a reason to pray, it is allowed. But I would say, like what I said last week, if you remember, even Salat Dawat al-Asbab. Okay. This has nothing to do with the hadith in particular, it has to do with the concept. I just want you to understand how the fuqaha works. So if you have one hadith contradict another hadith, appear to contradict each other. In order for them to contradict each other, number one, they have to be in the same level of authenticity. If this is authentic and this is weak, there's no contradiction. We drop the weak. If this is authentic, but this is way more authentic, I take the way more authentic and I don't look at that. Because of this, al-ulama divide the hadith to what? Hasan and Sahih, for example. وَالْحَسَنُ كَالصَّحِيحِ فِي الْحُجَّةِ. But he is not similar to it when it comes to the mahajjah, to the debate. Okay? So, if there is Sahih and Hasan, I take the Sahih. That's why ulama said Sahih لغيري, Sahih لذاتي, Sahih Hasan لذاتي, Hasan لغيري. All these categories of hadith are meant whenever you have to choose between two, you go with the most authentic. Okay? If you look at the hadith that says you're not allowed to pray at this time, they are in al-Bukhari, Muslim, they are very strong hadith. You look to this hadith, is not as authentic as the other ones. The second thing we say, we look at the wording of the hadith. How strong the wording are. Jazakallah khairan. How the wording are. How authentic they are. No doubt the hadith that says you're not allowed to pray are very, very explicit, very strong, to so many. But look at hadith Jubair ibn Mut'im, even you can tell Jubair ibn Mut'im narration has nothing to do with the salah. It doesn't talk about the salah as a salah or tawaf. It talks about you have this authority, Bani Abd Manaf, don't abuse it. That's the hadith is about. It's not meant to make the ruling in regard when you're allowed to pray in Mecca and when you're not allowed. That's not the point. The point of the hadith is to tell Bani Abd Manaf, don't abuse the power that you have. Versus a hadith is speaking specifically about the timing of the salah, when you're allowed to pray, when you're not allowed. They are very specific. They are very much explicitly related to the subject. While this one is not very explicit, is not directly related to the subject. So you cannot use this and say they are equal level. Okay? Because of this, I say, I would say that if you go and you make tawaf, and there's 2 rak'ah after tawaf, and it's like 5-10 minutes before Maghrib, or 5-10 minutes before Fajr, before the sunrise, to come up, don't pray, delay. Pray the 2 rak'ah later on. It doesn't need to be immediately. You can wait. Okay? And if you prayed, I hope inshallah there is no harm in it, because there is a salah was initiated for a reason. طيب. Next hadith.
وعن ابن عمر رضي الله تعالى عنهما أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال الشفق حمرة الحمرة رواه الدارقطني وصححه ابن خزيمة وغيره وغفره.
Yeah. يعني as a statement from Ibn Umar رضي الله عنه وأرضاه.
Narrated Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, the twilight is the redness, reported by Darqutni, Ibn Khuzaymah graded it sahih, authentic, and others graded it mawquf, a saying of a companion.
Yeah, يعني what he means by that, what he mean by that Ad-Daraqutni rahimahullah narrated the narration, and Ibn Khuzaymah said this narration, it is from Ibn Umar, not from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Ad-Daraqutni reported in his book As-Sunan fi Sifat Salat al-Maghrib al-Subh. And you remember, I don't know if you remember that, few months maybe or a few weeks back, we talked about Shafaq al-Ahmar. When we talk about Salat al-Isha, when it comes, Shafaq al-Ahmar is that redness in the sky. When it goes down, that's where basically the Salat al-Isha start. Al-Shafaq al-Humra. And this, Al-Bayhaqi rahimahullah narrated many ahadith in this meaning from Umar, Ali ibn Umar ibn Abbas, Shaddad ibn Aus, Abi Hurairah, but all of them are weak as a statement from the Prophet ﷺ. And Al-Bayhaqi said, these are statements from the companions, not from the Prophet ﷺ. So this narration, Al-Imam rahimahullah bin Hajar just brought it to explain to you what he supported earlier, that Salat al-Isha start after the disappear of the Shafaq al-Ahmar. طيب. So if, as long as there is redness in the sky, there is Maghrib. If this redness in the sky disappear, when the sun goes completely down and became dark, that's where al-Isha start. طيب. It's not like what the Hanafi said, it is the Shafaq wal-Bayad, that gray, the light, the whiteness. No, it is the redness on the sky. And we talked about this before. Next.
وعن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم الفجر فجران فجر يحرم الطعام وتحل فيه صلاة وفجر يحرم فيه صلاة أي صلاة الصبح ويحل فيه الطعام رواه ابن خزيمة والحاكم والصحاب وللحاكم من حديث جابر نحوه وزاد فيه الذي يحرم الطعام إنه يذهب مستطيلا في الأفق وفيه الآخر إنه كذنب السرحان
السرحان كثر الساء has كسرة من السراحين, which is الذئاب, wolves.
Narrated Ibn Abbas, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that dawn is of two types: the dawn in which eating is forbidden for the fasting person and prayer is permitted, and the dawn in which prayer is forbidden, i.e. the morning prayer, and eating is permitted. Reported by Ibn Khuzaymah and Hakim, who both created it sahih. Al-Hakim reported something similar to the above hadith from Jabir and added to the type of dawn in which eating is forbidden. It is spread widely in the horizon, and to the other type, it has the shape of a wolf's tail.
Yeah. This hadith and the previous hadith has nothing to do with the awqat al-nahi, the time where salah is not recommended. This is he ending the whole chapter of al-mawaqit by mentioning some narration to support the previous discussion that we had. And one of it here, because these narration are not as authentic as the previous one, so he put it in the end, just as a support. So here we talk about the timing of Fajr, and you remember we mentioned that Fajr Salah, the Fajr is two types, the true Fajr and false Fajr. The false Fajr, when the light comes like this into the sky, there is a light like a pillar, كالعمود, or كذنب السرحان, like the tail of the wolf, is like this. So it goes straight onto the sky. That light that you see, when you see it, you might think, oh, Fajr is already. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, that light that you see before the actual time of Fajr, do not forbid eating for the Sa'im. If you're fasting, you still can eat. And do not allow you to pray Fajr yet. So, because the time is not yet. Which time, what's the true time of Fajr? When the light doesn't go straight, shoot up straight. No. When the light seen in the horizon like this. And there's one narration from Mas'ud, he did like this. Yani it goes on the horizon. So if you see the light, unfortunately some of us very hard to imagine this because we're not associated with nature anymore. You know, we just look at the time. The best thing you can see, if there is a picture of the sun going up and down in your app, telling you the sunrise, that's the only sun we watch. You know, or only light we watch. You know, it's unfortunately. And one of the things that, I know this is off the topic a little bit, but one of the things that I do believe, it is so unique, how Sharia ordered us to sight the moon. And that's one of the reasons I don't agree on the pure calculation methods that people follow today. Because it disconnects us more and more from nature. You just became so dependent on machines. While if you ask to go, when you see the moon and the crescent, it reminds you of Allah. This is one of ayatullah. It brings iman to your heart. You say, mashallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who brought the new moon. It has a meaning attached to it. Versus, let me look to my Google calendar. Tomorrow Ramadan. How dead Ramadan is this? Or Eid is. Versus we go, did you see it? You located, I located the moon. That in itself an act of worship in my opinion. That in itself to remind you of azamatillah, the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It reminds you of the creation of Allah. But this only connects you to the creation of the human beings. And there's a big difference between you being connected to Allah and to creating to the human beings' work. So that's why, and you're gonna say, but the human beings, Allah the one. Yeah, that's two steps in the mind, and usually people don't go that way. This is a direct link. You see Allah's creation, and it connect you more and make you more grateful and thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anyway, this hadith in Ibn Khuzaymah rahimahullah in his Sahih, and Ibn Khuzaymah's Sahih has a very high level of authenticity. But the hadith is actually mawquf, which it means a statement from the companion Ibn Umar radiallahu anh, and is not Ibn Abbas radiallahu anh. And maybe it's there is a lot of ulama debate over it is something the Prophet said or not. And many of them said no, it is mawquf. It is a statement of Ibn Abbas or a statement of the Sahaba radiallahu anhu. But the hadith has a lot of other narration to support it. Ibn Abbas, Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anh, if al-Bukhari or Muslim narrated hadith in the same line to support that concept. I'm not going to go into the debate again over the Fajr because we already talked about that. If you're interested, just go back to the old lectures and you can listen to it. Yes. Next hadith.
وعن ابن مسعود رضي الله تعالى عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أفضل الأعمال الصلاة في أول وقتها. رواه الترمذي والحاكم والصححه وأصله في صحيحين. Narrated Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, one of the best deeds is to offer salah prayer in its early time, reported by At-Tirmidhi and Hakim, who both graded Sahih. Its basic meaning is in the Sahihain of Al-Bukhari and Muslim.
Okay. He said, At-Tirmidhi قال أفضل الصلاة في أول وقتها. What we have in our hand now from Sunan Tirmidhi, the copies that we have today in Sunan Tirmidhi, it doesn't say as-salatu fi awwali waqtiha. It says as-salatu ala waqtiha. It's a little bit different. Awwal waqtiha, very explicit, in the beginning of the time. Ala waqtiha, on time. Okay? It's less explicit. Just the riwayah, the narration, ala waqtiha is the same in Bukhari and Muslim. Ala waqtiha. Bukhari Muslim also has ala waqtiha. طيب. أفضل, and in Muslim, الصلاة لوقتها. أفضل الأعمال الصلاة لوقتها. الصلاة for its time. So there is a little bit of differences. Okay? And we will talk about this. Is the wording أول وقتها, the beginning of its time, authentic? Ibn Hajar said yes. Tirmidhi said it's authentic. Al-Hakim said it's authentic. Al-Dhahabi said it's authentic. Ibn Khuzaymah said it's authentic. Ibn Hibban said it's authentic. Okay? But that's not the only position. There is other ulama said this wording, the beginning of the time, they said no, it's not authentic. Like in Nawawi rahimahullah. He said this narration, but narrated by somebody, his name, Ali ibn Hafs. And he's the only one narrated this wording, and everybody else didn't say it that way. So they said because Ali ibn Hafs tafarrad biha, and he's not very trustworthy narrator, that became something shad and rejected. And to be honest with you, no, there is other people narrated it as well, not only as in Nawawi rahimahullah thought Ali ibn Hafs is the only one. But I will keep that for another discussion. So I do believe that as-salah fi awwali waqtiha is correct and authentic wording and narration. طيب. And as-salah in the beginning of the time is highly recommended. I don't think there is any need to argue this. Okay? And we basically we mentioned several ahadith before. If you remember the discussion over Salat al-Dhuhr, we said delaying Salat al-Dhuhr goes against the default rules, which is to be prayed in the beginning of the time. You remember we talked about Asr. We said Asr should be prayed in the beginning of the time. And Aisha radiallahu anha, she said, ما رأيت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم صلى صلاة لوقتها حتى قبضه الله. Yani I never saw the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam delay any salah until he died. He always tried to pray in the beginning of the time. Linguistically speaking, for those who care, أول وقتها على وقتها لوقتها. 3 words. أول وقتها على وقتها لوقتها. طيب. They said العلماء, there is not really a big difference between. Okay? So أول وقتها, in the beginning of the time, على وقتها, على وقتها, it means on time. So the time is the beginning. طيب, but the لوقتها, what's لوقتها means? اللام في لغة العرب تكون اسمها لام الاستقبال. اللام, it referred to the beginning of the time. يا أيها النبي إذا طلقتم النساء فطلقوهن لعدتهن. O Prophet, and I addressed the Prophet, but he meant us, the Muslims. If you divorce your woman, divorce them لعدتهن. يعني إيش? Divorce them in the beginning of the permitted time for divorce. So if I'm planning to divorce my wife, okay, she has her period, okay, she finished her period on June 5th. If you decide, خلاص, you're going to divorce, don't wait until June 20. Okay, she finished her period, she starts her طهر, she's pure, you divorce her. And if you مقتبل عدتهن. Okay? Also, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, أقم الصلاة لدلوك الشمس. أقم الصلاة, when the sun moves. So, when the sun moves, يعني when the sun moves, الصلاة starts. So, اللام, it means the beginning here. الابتداء الوقت. So, الصلاة على لوقتها, يعني الصلاة in the beginning of its time. For its time, يعني for the beginning of the time. So, اللام وعلى وأول have the same meaning. على وقتها, على تكون بمعنى اللام. No problem at all. So, he prayed on time, يعني in the beginning of the time. Okay. And I don't think there is need for us to imagine contradiction between the wording. They are complement one another. There is another issue I want to mention in this hadith. How many times you come across hadith says, the best deeds is this. The best deeds is this. And you notice every time he sees something, he says something different. Have you noticed that? Can anybody give me an example? We have one here. The best deeds is to pray in the beginning of the time. But there is any other hadith said the best deeds to do something else. الذكر. أفضل الأعمال ذكر الله. Okay? You might see many ahadith like this. It says the best thing to do is to do this or to do that. So here we say, how can we, our best deeds is to fulfill the obligations. أحب الأعمال الله ما افترضه عليه. Okay? And so many. So how can we combine between these ahadith? Why the Prophet gave several answers? And the ulama said for several reasons. Number one, by looking at the deed itself. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, sometimes this is the best deeds because it's the most obligated thing upon you. So you refer to the salah as the best deeds because salah is the most obligated pillars of Islam. Okay? So sometimes you look at the act itself. Also sometimes you look at the haja, the need. Okay? So for example, it's a time of hunger, shortage of sadaqah. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was said to the companion, the best deed is to donate, is to give, is to feed, is to provide food. Why? Because the situation required that more than anything else. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that, and he was taking that in consideration. So for example, there is a time of jihad. أفضل أعمال الجهاد في سبيل الله. ثم ماذا قال بر الوالدين. So he said, because it's a time of fight and protecting and fighting the enemy. So that would be best deeds. Bir al-walidain, because a lot of parents don't want their children to go to jihad. So somebody might, if jihad is not wajib, so he might stay behind to take care of his parents. So you don't feel so bad. To know that one of the best deeds to do now is to make sure that your parents are taken care of. So every time Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam answered this, he take in consideration the situation of the society or the situation of the person himself. So he know that this person, okay, for him that's the best thing. That's why he will come to a rich man and say the best thing is to donate. But if you, a poor person, he come to you, a poor person, he said, what's the best deed I can do? Is to give money. But I don't have money to give. You just broke my heart this way. And Nabi Sallallahu will tell him something else that he can do. So, al-afdaliyya, it means in general, he takes Sallallahu in consideration that person's situation. Also, there is another concept, a fourth point, which is al-jins. There are certain deeds at large, they are better than others. For example, the deeds that has to do with benefiting others are more and higher reward than the things that personally only benefit you. Number two, the things that they are obligated. Salat al-Dhuhr better than any extra volunteer prayer, any Qiyam al-Layl. Salat al-Asr better than Qiyam al-Layl. Ramadan better than fasting Monday. So at large, the obligations are better than the recommended act. Also, among the recommended acts, there are variety. Reciting Quran better than making dua. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam told us that Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala said, "Man shaghalahu dhikri an mas'alati a'taytu khayra ma a'ti as-sa'ilin wa dhakiri." So if the person occupied with the Quran and reading it, Allah give them whatever people ask and pray for and more. Al-Quran is the best form of dhikr at large. Also at large, we know that Silatul Rahim wa Birrul Walidain, taking care of your parents and family and kinship, that's at large better than so many other volunteer acts like being with a friend and helping friends. Okay? So when you look at these all together, you will be able to understand why the Prophet ﷺ said this is the best deeds. You look at the timing, the person who's asking, the situation that they were in when he said that ﷺ, and you look at the concept. So when he said as-salatu ala awwali waqtiha, in the beginning of the time, because as-salah is one of the most important deeds in Islam. Go ahead, next.
وعن أبي محذورة رضي الله تعالى عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: أول وقت رضوان الله وأوسطه رحمة الله وآخره عفو الله. أخرجه الدارقطني بسند ضعيف جدا وللترمذي من حديث ابن عمر نحوه دون الأوسط وهو ضعيف أيضا. Narrated Abu Mahdura radiallahu anhu.
Abu Mahdura, famous of the hadith al-adhan, he's the one who reported the way the adhan is called.
The Prophet ﷺ said, the earliest time of prayer is what pleases Allah. The mid-time is for the mercy of Allah. And the latest time is what Allah pardons. Reported by Ad-Darqutni with a very weak sanad chain. At-Tirmidhi has reported something similar, narrated by Ibn Umar, without mentioning the mid-time. It is da'if too, weak.
Hadith Ibn Umar that he was referring to, it says, إِنَّ الْوَقْتَ أَوَّلُ الْوَقْتِ رِضْوَانُ اللَّهِ وَالْوَقْتُ وَآخِرُ الْوَقْتِ عَفْوُ اللَّهِ مَا فِي أَوْسَطٍ. The hadith Ibn Umar, it says, the beginning of the time is the Ridwan of Allah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pleased with the people who pray on the beginning of the time. And akhir al-waqt afu, forgiven. Yani Allah will forgive you if you delay the salah to the end of the time. Not forgive you as encouraging you to do it. No, and He forgive you delaying it. Okay? And it didn't say the middle of that time, because here the middle is the mercy of Allah. This hadith is very weak, as al-Bayhaqi rahimahullah mentioned, because it has a narrator, his name Ibrahim ibn Zakaria. حدث عن الثقات بالبواطيل كما يقول البيهقي رحمه الله. He said he narrated things from trustworthy narrator, which is absolutely false. Absolutely false. And this hadith is absolutely weak, cannot stand on its legs at all. Even though there is other narrations to complement it in Hadith Ibn Umar that we just heard, but even this hadith cannot bring this hadith to be acceptable. And the Hadith Ibn Umar has a man, his name Ya'qub ibn al-Walid. And Ya'qub ibn al-Walid, يقول Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, كان من الكذابين الكبار. He's a big liar. يضع الحديث. He fabricated a hadith. And he made up hadith. And Imam Ahmad rahimahullah قال مزقنا حديثه. Imam Ahmad said, they brought his hadith written to me, and what he did, and he trashed it. Any hadith from this man, Ya'qub ibn al-Walid, the ulama rejected. And he made basically he made so many ahadith, or he made up a hadith that the ulama rahimahullah pointed out. For example, Al-Dhahabi rahimahullah mentioned that he said, this man, Ya'qub ibn al-Walid, that Musa ibn Uqbah said, that Nafi' said, that Ibn Umar said, that the Prophet ﷺ said. How many verses Surah Al-Baqarah, guys? 280 what?
186.
280. We'll be faster if we pick the Mus'haf. 286. Very good. 286. So that this narration he claimed, he said, لو تمت البقرة 300 آية. If the Baqarah was 300 verse, لتكلمت البقر مع الناس, أو البقرة مع الناس. A cow would have talked with people. So الذهبي رحمه الله قد قبحه الله ما أكذبه. He said, what a shameful person, he's such a liar. He made this up. So those people made this ahadith, and one of the things that this ahadith does, it give a bad image for Islam. Okay? Anyway, and this hadith is very weak if it's not fabricated. The beginning of the time is mercy, is ridwan, pleasing, middle is mercy, and the end is forgiveness. And this hadith I hear many imams sometimes quote it, or khutbah Jumu'ah, and that's absolutely unacceptable hadith. And there is no need for this to prove the importance of the beginning of the time. This is very weak hadith. Next.
وعن ابن عمر رضي الله تعالى عنهما أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لا صلاة بعد الفجر إلا سجدتين أخرجه الخمسة إلا النسائية. وفي رواية عبد الرزاق لا صلاة بعد طلوع الفجر إلا ركعتي الفجر. ومثله الدارقطني عن ابن عمر ابن العاص. Narrated Ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, there is no salah, i.e. voluntary prayer, after the break of dawn except sajdatain, sunnah al-fajr, reported by al-khamsa except al-nasai. In another narration of the Razak also narrated, there is no salat, voluntary prayer, after the break of dawn except the two sunnah rak'ah of fajr.
Okay, so here this hadith Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, reported by al-Khamsa, except al-Nasa'i, he did report it. And al-Tirmidhi rahimahullah said this hadith is gharib. And al-Tirmidhi, when he says hadith gharib, it means weak. And he said that this hadith is gharib, but al-ulama rahimahullah did not agree with the Tirmidhi on that. Imam al-Zayla'i rahimahullah said that al-Tabarani reported this hadith from Tirmidhi said it's weak because it was narrated by Qudamah ibn Musa, and the only one narrated this hadith a man by the name Qudamah ibn Musa, and هذا ضعيف عند الترمذي. الزيلعي رحمه الله is a great Hanafi scholar, has a fantastic book, it's called نصب الراية في تخريج أحاديث الهداية. He said that actually الطبراني reported this hadith, and not from طريق Qudamah ibn Musa, not from the way Qudamah, not with other than Qudamah ibn Musa. So that's one. So Qudamah ibn Musa is the only one narrated this. Two, Qudamah ibn Musa actually min rijal Muslim. Qudamah ibn Musa is not weak. He's one of the men that Imam Muslim rahimahullah used in his Sahih. So it's not a very weak hadith, not one weak narrator. But still the hadith is not authentic because Ayyub, Muhammad ibn Husayn, the sheikh of Qudamah ibn Musa, is weak himself. So this hadith has weakness. Anyway, al-hadith also has some narration to support it. I'm not sure if he mentioned it in your في رواية عبد الرزاق. He mentioned the narration that Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As to support this. But I do believe with all these backup narrations, still the narration is not that authentic. It's not that authentic. That's why many ulama consider it hasan, acceptable, and very few made it authentic. Maybe Sheikh al-Albani, I'm not sure right now. I don't remember. But the majority said it's weak. Some said it's hasan, came back each other until it became like acceptable. And al-hadith talk about the time of forbidding people from praying, which is after Fajr. طيب. And we talked before, is it after Fajr time or after Salat al-Fajr? Here. After Fajr time or after Salat al-Fajr? We talked about this last week. You can go back to it, but we said after Fajr time was an opinion. It's not very strong because Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam allowed to pray Sunnat al-Fajr. And this hadith talking about Sunnat al-Fajr, nur 2 rak'ah, yani nur 2 rak'ah of Sunnat al-Fajr. Okay? So, allowed Sunnat al-Fajr. We said, if Sunnat al-Fajr allowed to be prayed, that's not nahi. That time is allowed for you to pray. Yes, Nabi Sallallahu never volunteered extra salah in this time. But we know that the Sahaba made up the witr at that time, after the adhan was called, to make up the witr that they missed in the night if they overslept. Or the Fajr entered while they started praying. They didn't pay attention. So they can do the rak'at al-witr after Salat al-Fajr, after Adhan al-Fajr. And we said that the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when he forbade Salah after Fajr, he meant Salat al-Fajr. Because there is other hadith explicit. Like hadith Abi Dawood, hadith Amr ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إن الصلاة محظورة. ثم قال مشهودة محظورة حتى تصلي الفجر ثم أقصر عن الصلاة. When you pray Fajr, you stop praying. That's very explicit. So that's why we said the salah after, not after the time of Fajr enter, after the Salat al-Fajr done. You should not pray. And we talked in detail last week about that. Yes, next. But the point from this hadith is, he said no prayer after Fajr except the 2 rak'ahs, which it means Sunnat al-Fajr. So from this we understand that it is nahi. You're not allowed to pray anything except Sunnat al-Fajr. But as I said, the hadith is weak, and the hadith we could understand it. We said no, it meant after Salat al-Fajr, not the Sunnah of al-Fajr. Yes.
وعن أم سلمة رضي الله تعالى عنهما قالت صلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم العصر ثم دخل بيتي فصلى ركعتين فسألته فقال شغلت عن ركعتين بعد الظهر فصليتهما الآن فقلت أفنقضيهما إذا فاتتا قال لا أخرجه أحمد ولأبي داود عن عائشة رضي الله تعالى عنهما بمعناه. Narrated Salama radiallahu anha, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam came to my house after offering Asr prayer and offered 2 rak'ah. Then I asked him about that, and he replied, I was kept busy and failed to pray the 2 sunnah rak'ah after Dhuhr prayer. So I offered them now. I asked him, should we offer them if we miss them? He sallallahu alayhi wa sallam replied, no. Reported by Ahmad, the narration of Abu Dawood from Aisha radiallahu anha has the same meaning.
It's hard to go in details on fasting at Asr. This hadith Salama radiallahu anha wardaha, and hadith Aisha as well, these 2 hadith, he did not mention what Aisha said, but he said just mention hadith Salama radiallahu anha, and that's the last hadith in this chapter, the last hadith of today as well for us. I want you to distinguish between 2 things. Hadith Salama, it's in al-Bukhari and Muslim, but without this addition, when she said, Ya Rasulullah, should we pray as well after Asr if we missed it? So this addition, when she asked the Prophet ﷺ and he said no, this is not in Bukhari Muslim. What's in the Bukhari Muslim? That the Nabi ﷺ prayed 2 rak'ah after Asr. Period. Okay? But that's detailed explanation. Why did you pray? Should we pray? And this is came in Musnad al-Imam Ahmad rahimahullah ta'ala. Okay? Otherwise, the hadith, when Wafd Bani Abdi Qais came and they asked the Prophet ﷺ, he did not pray Sunnat al-Dhuhr. He forgot about Sunnat al-Dhuhr, which is after Salah. He forgot about it. You pray 4 before Dhuhr and 2 after Dhuhr. He forgot because he was busy with Wafd Bani Abdi Qais. All of a sudden, Asr started. So Nabi ﷺ, when Asr started, he prayed Asr, then he entered his house and he prayed 2 rak'ah. That's what Salama did. And he continued doing this until he died. So that's portion, that's what you said. This is Aisha, Salama narrated this in al-Bukhari and Muslim. The issue here, when she said, should we make it up if we miss it as well? He said no. This addition, what reported by Imam Ahmad, Ibn Hibban, Al-Tahawi rahimahullah, and this addition, when he said no, the proof for the ulama to say that praying after Asr only for the Prophet ﷺ, no one else. If you take that extra narration, it means that only for the Prophet because he said no. Okay? Is this addition authentic? That's something very long debate between the scholars over it. Okay? Because the one who related this from Salama, his name Dhakwan. Okay? Dhakwan and Salama. Dhakwan mawla Aisha radiallahu anha wa ardaha. And there is inqita'. They said Dhakwan did not actually hear it from Salama radiallahu anha wa ardaha, because they never heard that hadith from her. Also they said the hadith reported by Hammad ibn Salama without this addition for the Bukhari or Muslim. So they said Hammad ibn Salama is one of the most authentic narrator, since he never narrated these additions, and someone else who we have a question mark about his narration narrated it, that make it shad, unacceptable. Okay? And I'll be honest with you, there is a big, huge debate between the scholars on the authenticity of it, and I feel more leaning towards the weakness of this narration, that this addition is not very well established. Okay? Anyway, this hadith talking about one issue here specifically, which is, are we allowed to pray after Asr? The 2 rak'ah that the Prophet ﷺ prayed. Some ulama said this hadith established the permissibility of praying after Asr in your house. Like Aisha Salama reported that the Prophet did that in his house. Okay? And they said that's not only the Prophet did that, his companion did that. Like who? Like Zayd ibn Khalid al-Juhani. He did that. كان زيد ibn Khalid يصلي ركعتين بعد العصر in his house. And he praying 2 rak'ah after Asr. Umar radiallahu anh came and he said to him, don't do that. So Zayd ibn Khalid finished his salah and he said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, I've been praying these 2 rak'ah after Asr all my life from the time I saw the Prophet ﷺ praying them. Then Umar radiallahu anh said, Inni lasta iyaka a'ni. I don't mean that. I am worried if the people, the new Muslim and the young Muslim, see you praying after Asr like this 2 rak'ah. There is other people who come and pray after Asr, not too many rak'ahs, and until Maghrib. قال إني أخشى أن يتمادى الناس في هذه الصلاة فيصلوا عند غروب الشمس. I'm worried that after Asr people pray until the exact time which is absolutely not allowed to pray, which is right before Maghrib. They will continue pray until that time. So I want to cut that off. After Asr, no prayer. Okay? Also Tamim al-Dari, same thing happened to him with Umar radiallahu anhu. He saw him praying after Asr, and he said the same thing to him. And the hadith reported by Daraqutni, Ibn Hazm rahimahullah, Abu Darda, Ali ibn Abi Talib, Aisha, Jam' min al-Sahaba was reported that they used to pray 2 rak'ah after Asr. So that's the first opinion. And Al-Zahiriyya believe that's permissible. The second opinion, which is not allowed to pray after Asr any salah. They pray Asr, khalas, you're not allowed to pray. Why? Because the explicit narrations where the Prophet said, if you pray, don't pray after Asr. La salata ba'da al-Asr. When you pray Asr, hold on, don't pray until Maghrib comes. So many explicit hadith we mentioned before. طيب. And they said the Prophet ﷺ did it, and we know that the Prophet ﷺ actions cannot contradict his statements. Yani if we have a statement from the Prophet ﷺ and an action from the Prophet ﷺ, and I see them contradict each other, which one we take? The statement. Why? Because the action, maybe there is a reason for it. Maybe it's only for the Prophet. Like the Nabi ﷺ did, he said, don't continue fasting. When Maghrib comes, you break your fast. But if you look, Nabi ﷺ fasted the whole day and the whole night. He did not break his fast at Maghrib. He continued fasting. So the action contradicted what? The statement. We took the statement. Why? Because the action is something for the Prophet ﷺ. He said, I'm not like you. Allah provide food and drink for me. So that's why I fast. So you cannot take the actions always has to be explained. Statement is more explicit. So the ulama said we take the Prophet's statement over the action that he prayed 2 rak'ah. Why? Because maybe there is a reason for it. Maybe it's something special for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So قالوا بالخصوصية. And they use this narration from Salama, some of them, to say this is very explicit. And this is, many of the Shafi'iyya said that, and there's a very famous Shafi'i scholar, Ibn Battah rahimahullah, supported that. The third position, they said, you only allowed to pray after Asr, Sunnatul Dhuhr, if you missed it after Dhuhr. Okay? So if you miss Sunnatul Dhuhr after Dhuhr, you're allowed to make it up after Asr, like what the Prophet did. But you're not allowed to continuously pray 2 rak'ah every day. So you must say, Sheikh, but the hadith said that the Prophet, he made up Sunnatul Dhuhr after Asr, but he stopped praying 2 rak'ah volunteer every day after that. We said that's for the Prophet ﷺ only. He continued that. Why? Because the Nabi ﷺ did not start a ibadah and he stopped it later on. He continued doing it. But this is only the Prophet ﷺ, not someone else. So we say the khususiyya in the continuity of doing it. But the permissibility of making up Sunnatul Dhuhr, if you missed it, it is allowed to do it right after what? After Asr. Question. What if you miss the Sunnatul Dhuhr that before Dhuhr? The 4 rak'ah before Dhuhr. You prayed Dhuhr and you prayed 2 rak'ah Sunnah and you forgot completely. But you know what? I didn't pray the Sunnah before Dhuhr. And you remember now at Asr time. Can you make it? Yes. Again. But you have to avoid praying. You have to avoid praying very near to Maghrib time. Yani before the sun goes down. You don't even make up the salah. They don't make up the volunteer prayer. Because that's a time which is the nahi is very strong. So you avoid it. You can do it after Maghrib if you want. It doesn't need to be after Asr. You can move after Isha. If you... What say that?
What about the obligatory?
No, you pray it on time. You pray it whenever you remember it. Even if it is the sun going down, even if it's 1 minute before sun goes down, you still pray. That's the Jumhur's position. So this third position is what Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah chose and supported, and Imam al-Bayhaqi rahimahullah as well. And I think that this is a very moderate, balanced opinion between the fuqaha's position rahimahullah ta'ala.
Let's say I walk in the masjid and they pray us, and I'm
if you enter the masjid, they're praying Asr and you miss Dhuhr, you enter with them with the intention of Dhuhr.
You still get the reward? 25, 27.
Sure. I hope so. Praying Jama'ah. Okay, anybody else have a question about anything before? This will come the end of the chapter of Mawaqit al-Salah. After that will be the adhan. And there's a lot of beautiful ilm in this chapter as well on Sifat Salah and so on, inshallah. Yes. Before Asr. Before the obligatory prayer. Recommended. Say that again.
During Asr Salah, first Salah, before four rakat.
Yeah, but it's not Sunnah Ratiba. It's not something the Prophet regularly did it. He encouraged that whoever pray 4 rak'ah before Asr, Allah forbade the hellfire to touch his body.
2 rakat also before Asr.
No, 2 rak'ah, 4 rak'ah.
4 rakat before Asr. Whatever 2 rakat.
The 2 rak'ah the Prophet ﷺ prayed after Asr. Yeah, but as we heard, the 2 rak'ah after Asr, al-ulama said that this is only for the Prophet. Nobody else can do it. Some said, no, you can do it. Everybody can do it. Some said, no, we only do it if we missed the 2 rak'ah sunnah of dhuhr. You can make it up. I forgot. I remember after Asr I can pray. But that's it. If you pray your sunnah al-dhuhr or you don't regularly pray sunnah al-dhuhr, you don't pray after Asr.
In Zuhr, the 4 rakat is the Sunnah.
Dhuhr prayer, there is 4 rak'ah before it and 2 rak'ah after it. There is something called as-sunan al-rawatib, the sunnah that the Prophet regularly did it. 2 rak'ah before Fajr, 4 before Dhuhr, and 2 after Dhuhr. 2 after Maghrib, 2 after Isha, and al-witr. And witr in Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam used to be 11, but you can do any witr. You can do witr 3, you can do witr 5, you can do witr whatever you want. Yeah, question. Anybody else? Good. Inshallah, we will reconvene our classes. It's going to be in most likely it's going to be after the summer. When did we start the class here? How many months so far? 5 months? We've been studying together here? Oh. No, less than that. Huh? 13 weeks, 3 months. That's how many months is that? 3 to 4 months, almost 4 months. That sounds right. 4 months, alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Are you guys in for the long haul?
Yes.
For the long shot? Okay, good. So, the problem is in June, I'm traveling a lot, and July as well. But I will let you guys know, I have a trip to Australia for 2 weeks in July and overseas in Mecca. So most likely it's going to be in the beginning of maybe of August. We will reconvene, inshallah. Give you a break for 2 months. Huh? Inshallah. So when the schools start again. Yeah, inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Thank you very much. And also, I will be open if you guys want to change the topic or the subject. Like, as long as we finish a full chapter, I'm good. So full chapter of Mawqit Salat, I'm good. If you want to start something else, I'm open to suggestion.